Hello everyone, good evening. Welcome to alumni, students, fellows, friends of the college. I hope you've all just been imagining the University Challenge theme in your heads. I know many of our panelists are humming along, I can see. We're delighted you can join us for this virtual event. I'm Chris Lintott, I'm an alumni of the college, and it's my pleasure to deal with my own past trauma about University Challenge appearances by talking to people who have been the most successful team in Maudlin's history today. I think we should start by congratulating them on a wonderful and fantastic achievement, getting to the final. I'm not quite sure what happened in the final. Maybe we'll find out at some point. But they were the most successful Cambridge College, which is the important thing, and they beat several Oxford teams on the way, which is even more important. And they're the second ever Maudlin team to reach the final after the 1978 team, who lost to Sydney Sussex in a local derby. During the event, I really want this to be your questions and your time with the team. So you have on Zoom the Q&A function. Do feel free to type questions as and when they occur to you. Perhaps you have some questions now, or perhaps we'll get there as we go. So do fill that, and I'll use that to direct questions to our distinguished panel. But I'm going to start in University Challenge style by getting them to introduce themselves to you. So maybe if each of the panel could say a few words about, I guess it's where you're from, what you're studying, but also what your relationship to University Challenge was. Were you a fan, or had you never heard of it when you saw the poster that asking you to apply? So let's start with the captain. Dan, over to you.
Hello, I'm Daniel Lawson. I'm from the Wirral, and I'm still studying medicine. And this was my third go applying to University Challenge, and I did stuff like this in school. So yeah, I've done it for a while.
Okay, good. Next up is Adam.
Well, hi, I'm Adam. As you may know, I'm from Kansas originally, and I graduated from Maudlin last summer with a degree in history. I'm now studying in London. And well, I actually applied with Dan for 3 times to the University Challenge. This is our 3rd time lucky. But interestingly, I'm probably closer to the never having heard of the program before coming to Britain than the first one. I've done quizzing stuff at school, but I like the show, but not the most familiar with all the arcane details.
Very good. James.
Hello, I'm James Byrne. I'm from Wollongong City in Hertfordshire, and I'm studying maths still. I've watched the show for a number of years. I don't know how many, but and I applied in first year, didn't get on the team because Dan wouldn't let me, but second year did get on the team, and here we are.
Very good. And Sari.
Kerry.
Kerry, oh, I'm sorry.
I'm Kerry Payne, and I'm from Little Wheaton in East Yorkshire, and I'm studying theology for ministry. And I love general knowledge quizzes at school. I was on the team that was county champions. We were on the radio in our final. And when I went to Cambridge, I went to Curtin the first time round as a student. I was desperate to be on a University Challenge. But at that point, it was very mysterious. There was no mention of it. I had no idea how to audition or anything. So when I heard that there were going to be open auditions for the Maudlin team, then I was really keen to go along.
Excellent. Now, we're also joined today by 2 people you haven't seen who are incredibly important, who are the team reserves. So let's meet them as well. So Sasha, do you want to go first?
Hi, I'm from Moscow and Paris, alternatively. I was studying modern medieval languages at Maudlin last year. Now I live in Exeter. And I had seen some episodes of the show, but not very assiduously. I just went to try out because I really like quizzes, and I thought that would be a fun way to spend an afternoon. And boy, am I glad I got on. Yeah.
Excellent. And Edwin.
Hello, my name is Edwin Blarney. I'm from Sutton Coldfields near Birmingham, and I was twice not quite good enough to get on the team this year, but I was drafted in at short notice by Dan at some point after Sasha couldn't make it due to travel restrictions in these weird times. I graduated in engineering last year after 4 years of study, and I've since entered the world of work. Still live in Cambridge as it happens. I think that's all to say about me. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, thank you all for joining us and spending time. Now, I did think we should try and reward you for your participation as well as answering questions from our audience. So I guess you all like quizzes. So I, with the help of the development office, have prepared a few University Challenge style questions. Now, we don't have the voice of University Challenge. It turns out he's not a Maudlin man, but so therefore you'll have to indicate that you wish to answer by shouting out the word Maudlin followed by your surname yourself. And you're all playing against each other. Of course, the audience, you're welcome to play along at home, which is one of the great joys of this program. And we have a starter and then a few follow-ups. So your starter for 10, Maudlin. Samuel Pepys's library is famously housed at Maudlin. Pepys was a particular man and felt strongly that a personal book collection should be of a certain size, no more, no less. How many volumes was Pepys's perfect size, and therefore how many books are in the Pepys library? I bet you the audience is shouting this at the screen. Half the art of this is guessing. Does no one want to make a
Maudlin
guess?
Byrne with a ridiculous guess.
Byrne.
2,000.
That's not the right answer. I will accept within 500 if anyone else wants to make a guess.
Maudlin Lawson, I'll also make a stupid guess. 12,000?
No, that's nowhere near. Anyone else? This is good. We'll give one more person a chance if you buzz in quickly.
Maudlin Payne, 2,000.
2,000. It's not the right. The correct answer is 3,000 books. Unfortunately, we'll do one more question at this stage of the evening, and we'll see how we do. If you're at home and you got that right, or at least close, you're currently beating the best ever Maudlin University Challenge team. So well done to the alumni. Second question. Buzz in as soon as you know the answer. Which patron played a key role in refounding the college as the College of St Mary Maudlin in 1542?
Maudlin.
It's believed.
Byrne.
I heard Lawson ahead of Byrne there.
Thomas Audley.
Correct answer. So you get 10 points. The development office are keeping score. And we have some follow-up questions for you. You get first crack, and then others can buzz in if you don't know or get them wrong. This round is on the college estate. Mallory Court contains a building which, before conversion, was once used for which commercial purpose?
Mallory Court. Having lived there, maybe I should know this.
I am going to rush you.
Let's say a brewery.
Correct answer. Was that a guess?
Vague inklings, but yeah, maybe.
Excellent. 5 points. Which college building contains 5 different carved posts on its staircases, allegedly so students could find their way home in the dark?
The Lutyens building.
Correct answer. And during which century was the Pepys building in Second Court constructed?
18th century.
That's not the right answer. Buzz in the rest of the team if you wish to answer.
Maudlin Byrne.
James.
17th.
Correct answer. 5 points to you. And we'll come back to that later on. Right, enough of that nonsense. I think we'll start with you, Dan, because several of your teammates commented on your team selection. So how was the team put together and what were you looking for in your team?
So I run this a couple of times. In fact, Edwin ran it before I did as a member of the JCR. But when they eventually decided that the easiest way to do college selection was to just drop off the pack that they sent to the college at my door. We did a written exam. I shouldn't call it an exam, it's meant to be fun. An invigilated paper of 100 questions. 100 questions that are sent by the production team from about 300. And I tried to work out some sort of distribution, so subject distribution that reflects what the program uses, which is very difficult to do, but it did my best. And I tried to pick, I think it was something like 60 questions that I thought were sort of medium and 40 that were really hard. And people sat that in Cripps Court and over several evenings, and I marked them. And then we took the best 10 scores on that written test and did a buzzer round on 2 different evenings. So we could get an idea of how good people were at reacting quickly and preempting questions, and which is more than half of the game, really. And then from that, we had a sort of set of marks in a spreadsheet, and the thing they didn't do is just pick the top 5, because you need 4 in a reserve players. We picked the team that together would have combined got the highest total score had they all been offered the questions, if that makes sense. So it's a complementary set of answers, not just did everyone did someone get the same questions right? Because obviously 5 people could get the highest score, but they might have all got the same 60 questions right or something like that. So that was how we went about it, hopefully in a sort of transparent but fairly robust way.
And then having picked your team, there's this strange interview process to decide particularly which of the Oxford colleges get on. Could one of the team tell us what that was like? Kerry, what about you?
So in the audition that the TV company runs, then they put 2 teams together. So you both have a go at answering the questions, and then they kind of talk to each of the teams separately, but you can see how the other team is doing. And so we were against a team with 5 blokes on it. And you know, we thought, great, we're not just 5 blokes. Anyway, it was all quite light-hearted, except I remember being asked what I thought was quite a strategic question, which was, what would you like to answer questions on? And I answered it truthfully with, I would love to answer questions on the Archers. And I was really disappointed that nobody ever asked me any questions on the Archers, because I think I would have done really well on that over several decades.
I'll try and write some during the course of this evening. We'll see if we can live out the Archer thing in a little bit. So you heard that you were selected and went up for filming initially pre-pandemic, if I've got the exact. James, what was your first encounter with the studio like? What was it like getting there and seeing the set and all of the rest of it?
It was quite odd, actually. So Dan had been there before because he'd been in the audience, but I don't think any of the rest of us had been there. And it was a surprisingly small room. It feels like it looks a lot bigger on TV than it actually is. Especially with the in the first round when we had the audience there, it felt even smaller with the stand. Once the audience disappeared, there was loads of space. But it was really odd being on the set, and I think you can see that in our first round, that perhaps the reason we were so slow to get away in the first round was a bit of sort of nerves and just, you know, overcome by it all.
Yeah. Were you all nervous? Adam, what about you? You would seem to settle pretty quickly in that first one.
Well, I think in the second round of filming, or second round, so not the third round, second round, me and Dan had made the mistake. We went to Pizza Express and decided, why not have a bottle of wine? Because ITV is helping pay. So in the morning round, you definitely notice that Adam has had a bottle of wine the night before. So maybe it's like distraction from nerves. Maybe it's anti-nerves, but it was definitely an interesting experience that I wouldn't recommend.
Yeah. My appearance as a student was the day after the May ball, which ruined our reaction speed, and that's been our excuse for many years. A couple of people, David Clark is asking about the difference between before and after pandemic, or before and during pandemic, whether it was very different with social distancing, and you had the screens between you. Dan, did that affect you as a team? It's obviously a weird experience anyway, but
yeah,
did you feel more distant?
I think the mechanics of the game were changed minimally, so they did a very good job of making sure it basically went ahead the same way. One of the advantages was that we had an earpiece in, which not only was for hearing each other, because the screens would have made that difficult if not, but Jeremy's voice also came through the earpiece. So instead of hearing someone across a room and from some speakers, you were now hearing the questions straight into your ear. And there's something about that I think just made you internalize the words better and maybe be able to respond a bit better. In terms of sort of conferring with each other, it made it slightly bizarre because you were, for example, me to see James, I was looking through 2 sets of perspex. And it also had maybe the knock-on effect that the producers hasn't considered, which was normally if you're not answering a set of bonuses, the team across the room from you, because you're not actually on top of each other. I'm sorry if that's ruined people's magic illusion. you normally can just sort of do whatever you want during their conferring on their set of bonuses. But what we couldn't do during that was talk about the questions we knew ourselves from their set of bonuses, because they would have heard us giving them the answers. So actually we were a lot more sort of just sit there, drink your water quietly and prepare for the next starter question.
Paul Drohan wants to know whether there was an audience there for the later rounds, or whether was that recorded clapping that we were hearing on screen. There's some nodding from
so
people.
the production team were really nice, and they actually did what encouragement they could do by clapping and sort of. And in fact, the questions editor, Tom Benson, was clapping on each bonus part occasionally when he thought you'd recalled something really, really well, or just dragged something up. And that was actually more encouraging than an audience who are told to only clap at the end of a bonus set. But the stuff you hear on the final recordings of the second to last round is all, archive audio of previous audience clappings, I'm afraid.
Right. And Sasha, I saw you nodding there. We've got a question from Sarah Atkins, which is about how you coped with being reserved. Were you were presumably up there? Were you listening in? Were you in the audience? How nervous were you watching your teammates?
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, Sarah. First of all, very nice to not see you but hear you. It was very stressful for us. I think Edwin can answer that too. In the first round, I was in the audience with a couple of friends I'd invited actually, so because they wanted to see the studios, and I think it was in many ways more stressful for me than for the team. I mean, I know the team, it was like obviously a lot of pressure for them, but because they were busy answering the questions, they were sort of focused on answering the questions and recording and the knowledge, whereas all I had to do was just stare at the results, and it was many times really close. And then after, during the pandemic and restrictions, we were in the green room and we got to watch it live as it was being recorded on screen, so sort of the non-edited version of what would appear. Yeah.
And Edwin, what about you? How did you find the experience? Were you nervous?
Yeah, I think I was to some extent. I sort of entered the process halfway through. I hadn't really gone through the stage of, say, the interview. You have that little challenge with another team that Kerry was talking about, and that sort of thing. So I hadn't gone in the footsteps of the rest of the team. I'd just sort of been parachuted in a sense to ideally do nothing and let the team just do brilliantly on screen as they did. But I was sitting there knowing that if one of them did fall ill or have a self-isolation scare or that kind of thing, that it could mean that I was suddenly kind of pushed up onto the stage and having to perform as best I could. I actually had something like that myself just prior to the recording date, where I needed to take a test and then wait for the results to come back to see if I was positive for the coronavirus or not. Thankfully not, but if it was, it means that all of Dan's efforts in getting me to make it to the recording studios in Salford and all of that would have been scuppered in a sense.
Yeah, we were very close to getting a reserve, at which point I thought, what do I do now? But the production team were very helpful, actually. They're very sort of reassuring. But yeah, reserves more important than ever, and stepping up is a really difficult thing to do. So thank you to both Sasha and Edwin.
Excellent. Good stuff. Well, we've got quite a few questions about sort of tactics and logistics. So let's deal with a few of those. Simon Robert Tissot just asked how you balance answering staff questions quickly and risking getting it wrong against being hesitant and beaten to the buzzer. James, is this something you practice? Is this just instinct, or what's your personal tactic?
I think the best time to buzz is the time that when they've read out your name, you'll know the answer by then. It's a little bit difficult to judge sometimes, which is sometimes you end up sort of stalling for time a bit to grasp at the answer.
Because mere mortals like me would think that you buzz when you've thought of the answer. But you're saying that's too late.
You buzz, right? When you think you know the answer, yeah. Which is a bit. It's sometimes why you see people I can't remember if any of us ever did this, but they buzz and then they just sit there blankly as if they, because they've buzzed and they're not really quite sure why they buzzed, I think. But yeah, I think we did very well on bonuses.
Yeah.
Kerry,
on
the whole.
Do you want to come in there?
I think this is where having done lots and lots of practicing together as a team with both reserves really came into its own, because the thing that we found was that because we had worked together so much, and Daniel was fantastic at encouraging us to have a go, so I think that really showed up in the fact that we did have confidence and not have fear about having a go, because you do always feel, oh no, what if I buzz incorrectly and I lose 5 points? And the thing you really have to have though is, I think, a sense that my teammates won't mind if I get things wrong, because it is important that if you can get the starter, then you're in with the with the bonus questions. So you have to be prepared to have a go and not have fear. And Daniel's captaincy really, and the way he handled the practices and really got us to not to feel awkward or embarrassed when we got things wrong. That made such a massive difference, I think.
Yeah, clearly that sort of how did you manage to practice it as a team during the strange year that we've had? Has it been lots of Zoom calls and so on?
Yes.
Adam, could you? Yeah. Sorry, it is Zoom and pretending to buzz and so on.
Yeah, exactly. Lots of Zoom.
We experimented with different ways of trying to try and do kind of Zoom buzzing with using the hand, but it's just a kind of press the hand, but that didn't really work. So it was just a case of kind of jumping in with things.
I think we were just shouting a bit like we've been asked to do tonight. Yeah, just shout as soon as you know. And then of course there's a delay, so you actually get more question than maybe you should do. But that's actually the delay of Zoom is actually pretty Jeremy Paxman-like in his progressive years.
Yeah, well, we'll come on to Paxman. There are lots of questions about him, but just still on tactics, Sean asked something that I want to know as well. This question for you, Dan, which is, do you choose the seating, the order in which you sit strategically, or is it sort of random?
Yeah, so you do choose the position in which you sit. Obviously, the captain always sits third from the left, camera left. So that's decided. But I actually remember when we chose this, it was in the MCR in Maudlin, when we were still allowed to be there. And I think we didn't put that much thought into it, but what we thought was that we were actually sitting in alphabetical order of surname eventually, but that was a coincidence. I think my thinking was that Adam and James know a lot about history, so those two can sit next to each other and confer and turn to confer. Kerry and I talked a bit more about the sort of literature, opera, that sort of thing, so we sat next to each other. And also you don't want the sort of science communication to be too far apart. That was one other thing to think about, because terminology that's conferred wrongly can lead to inaccuracy, and then you get it wrong. But other than that, I don't remember many other tactics. Does anyone else remember what we decided very quickly? I seem to think.
Yeah, I think in the end it probably didn't really matter too much, because with all the earpieces and microphones and stuff, it probably really didn't matter what order you were in.
Yeah, we were all in our own cubicle in the end.
Yeah. I think it was nice for me to be on the end, so because I probably I can do science questions and geography and history and the odd other thing, but if the art round comes up, I don't have a clue, so I can just sit at the end and basically tune out for about a couple of minutes.
So the specialist kicker of University Challenge.
Yeah, that's why I'm on the end, so I can just tune out.
James is an amazingly reliable buzzer, I want to say. Like, just the topics you know amazingly well, so we can just put you there.
Does that mean the rest of the team are having a rest when James takes the starter? You just think, okay, that's his for a while. Or
well, I absolutely was doing a thing of going. We started which country, something like that, which king, which queen. Just look over to James, check that he's going to buzz. Yep, he's buzzed. Have a sip of water. That's all fine. Let's answer these bonus questions. So
While we're on this, just because we've got Hugh Arthur asked James specifically about your expertise in vexillology, which is flags, right? If
Yeah.
I've got that right. So
Yeah.
the question is how you acquired that knowledge, and is it something that you brushed up for this, or is that just in your head anyway?
When I was like 6 or 7 or something, we got a map of the world that had all the flags of the world underneath it. I think I learned most of the flags from there, but obviously we brushed it up because that's it. You know, there's 200 odd of those, and if you know the 200 odd of those, you know you can be pretty sure that you might need that sort of thing at some point. The other stuff we did, chemical elements, and we did Dickens or Shakespeare or these sorts of things, just because they come up quite so often, and there's a reasonably easy sort of categorization of them that we can study.
I remember the point at which I realised that James had known this stuff for years, particularly the geography stuff, was when I asked a question on it. James knew all the capital cities, and I think lots of quizzes do. It's a list that I sort of looked at as a child. And then I asked what the capital of South Sudan was in practice, and James said something like, that wasn't a country when I learnt all of this, because it was pre-2012.
Yes, it's annoying when the world changes. So look, we've done tactics, we've done a little bit of talking about prep and your practice, but luck is a part of this. It always is. You've got to draw the right question. So I liked Mark has asked a question, which is, did any of the team have any special good luck rituals before each quiz, or did you eat any special brain food to kickstart your quizzing power?
I think certainly from my short time with the team, so I kind of ceded to Sasha when she was able to come to the later recording sessions after the one, the period I went to. Pizza Express seems to be a favorite. If we were there for one day, had some recording, and had been successful, such that we would have another match to play rather on the day after. And in that night in the middle, Pizza Express was both conveniently nearby and quite good food.
Yeah, I think Adam and I, coincidentally for the first 2 blocks, ordered the same starter, main course, and dessert at Pizza Express, and then realised this is the same. And the bottle of wine he's talking about, maybe that has a negative effect as well. But Merlot was what we went for twice. I don't know if it was closed in the 3rd block, because the 3rd block was absolutely in the midst of everything being closed. Maybe we can blame the final on that, but I'm not sure we can.
Somebody from the development office is going to market the Maudlin University Challenge Pizza Express menu experience. I'm sure that'll be coming in your newsletters audience shortly. And I have to ask about the mascot as well, because I think the mascot, I hope he's all right, by the way. I was slightly sad not to see. Oh, good. Excellent. Well done. Would somebody talk me through the eyebrows in particular? Kerry, was this your doing by any chance?
Well, it wasn't my idea, but my sewing skills were brought into play for it. So it was an homage to Rowan Williams, of course, and we hoped that people would know who we were referencing. I'm sure they did.
Let's just have another view for those who maybe missed, because it wasn't immediately obvious on screen, but there we go. And a face mask as well,
which is James is doing. So we have 2 sort of handicraft people on the team.
It's very nice. Good. Well, with that luck, let's take another quiz round. So I don't know if you need to quickly nip to Pizza Express or warm up or something, but as ever, shout Maudlin followed by your name, and I'll try and work out who comes first. Your starter for 10 is, before Lord Thomas Audley refounded Maudlin as the College of St Mary Maudlin in 1542, what name was
Maudlin Lawson?
That was Lawson again, I'm afraid.
Buckingham.
Correct answer. So your follow-up is on famous Maudlin members, and because I'm not Paxman, we're going to change it all, so anyone could just buzz in for these. First question. Maudlin alumnus Henry Dunster was the first president of which US college? Adam.
Harvard, right?
Yeah, correct answer. Which Maudlin alumnus is the creator, writer, and executive producer of Downton Abbey?
Maudlin Lawson.
Yeah.
Julian Fellows.
Correct answer. Samuel Pepys held a dinner every year with friends to celebrate surviving a dangerous medical operation. What ailment was the operation for?
Maudlin pain, appendicitis.
It's close, but not correct, I'm afraid. He says, becoming very Paxman-esque.
This is mentioned at the Pepys dinner, and I've forgotten what it is.
I'm going to go out into the street in Oxford and offer it to Oxford, as if none of you know this. It's bladder stones or gallstones is the correct answer. But excellent, good. So let's talk about some of the matches. Somebody asked, and sorry, I can't find the question right now, but somebody asked for I'd like each of the team and including Sasha and Edwin to very quickly tell us which was your favourite match and why. So let's start with Adam.
Well, it's hard not to enjoy that Balliol one, even if it felt like a bit, for obvious reasons. I enjoyed it.
James.
I think, retrospectively, Strathclyde, because it was so we got like 100-point lead and then we almost lost it, and it was so tense. But I think arguably it was the best match of the whole series. As an actual viewer, and yeah, I think there was one point in that match where you could see quite a bit of relief on my face after getting a later question right.
Yeah, Duncan McInnes notes that on what he calls the enjoyably futile University Challenge podcast, or maybe that's the title of the podcast, says the Strathclyde team were guests and were very complimentary and full of praise for you as opponents. So if you haven't heard that, it sounds like you should do. And he says that game was a cracker. It certainly was viewing. Kerry, what about you? Did you have a favourite?
I think I enjoyed the one against Birkbeck. It was the first one in which I didn't feel that I cringed every time we said the average age of our particular team. And we had actually watched on the green room, just before that, we'd seen them playing open, and we knew that they were incredibly good. So we went into it, I think, feeling quite daunted. So it was a good match.
And what about you, Sasha?
I think probably the Strathclyde one as well, also because I really like the Strathclyde team. All the teams that we met were really lovely. Like, I just wanted to say, because lots of people suppose some sort of weird rivalries or whatever, there really aren't, and everyone gets along really well on set and afterwards. But Strathclyde were just a really nice team, and I was almost rooting for them, but then Dan told me I'm not allowed to do that. So
that's an awful thing to say.
No, but yeah, they were lovely, and that match was really great and very close.
And Edwin, what about you?
I also quite enjoyed the Birkbeck match. It was one of the ones for which I was there in the green room watching through a screen in place of being able to sit in a real audience. But I think we did particularly well against them, and they put up a good fight in a sense. And also it was one for which I managed to get probably the most number of answers correct just in my head. So I have to be proud of that for myself.
Excellent. Yes, scoring at home is important. I hope people are doing this tonight. Dan, I've saved you as captain for last. Which was your favourite performance from your team, or from yourself, I suppose?
It's hard to pick. I mean, for the team and for the sort of, in retrospect, exactly like James said, the Strathclyde one, because that was probably the most tense of the match was in the second half. We had several second half runs that won us matches. So Birkbeck was 140, and then we didn't let them score and got 100 points and beat them by 100. The second round match against Corpus Christi, I would never describe that as good, because that was horrible, because I was certain we'd lost that. And then we got some nice questions on paintings we knew, and geography and medicine, so that was good. But yeah, I think James's answer of -4 and then a painting of Velasquez is coming up in the Strathclyde match was probably the best sort of segment of game we had. And we were, lucky, and we managed to scrape through.
Of course, University Challenge is made partly by the contestants and the quiz and so on, but also by the quiz master. Obviously, we claim Bamber Gascoigne as a college, college as the first person. And then his successor, Paxman, is somebody you're going to be asked about for the rest of your lives, I think, because people seem intensely interested in him. We've got a question from Tamsin Shelton, and I think a few other people as well. Is Jeremy Paxman as curmudgeonly and brusque in real life as he appears on screen? And anyone who wishes to answer that with tact is welcome to take a crack at that.
I would say is actually that the recording itself is not that edited down. I mean, obviously, if something goes wrong, then I need to edit it out. But the sort of what you see, what you'd see in a TV screen in the green room, is in many parts not dissimilar from the set. So, you know, your impressions on the TV are probably reasonably correct. The one thing I would say is that because of the restrictions and stuff, usually Jeremy would meet with the teams at various points in the production. Just to say hello and introduce himself, but that wasn't an option. With restrictions and stuff. So
Michael,
I suppose we perhaps met him a little less than other teams would have done.
Yeah. Michael Brooke wanted to know if you were chivied along more than is apparent in the broadcast, whether long silences are cut out and so on. But it sounds like that's not the case. Adam?
There is a bit. I mean, there's quite when people don't answer questions on both sides, they edit them out. Fairly frequently. I disagree with people, but when people mangle an answer, when Paxman doesn't say the right quip when he wants to say it, they read the quip. And it's not hugely different, but I don't know, if he says 6 little jokes over the course of the episode, not all of them were in that order or when he said them. As in, he always gets the benefit of the friendly editor, which is a valuable power, I think.
Yes, I think this is something, sorry, that people don't know is that there's a lot of reshoots at the end. Well, not a lot. It's fairly quick usually, but especially towards the end of a shooting day, it's something we might talk about later. If Jeremy messed up some questions, he has to reshoot them, but also if someone answered, whether it was correctly or incorrectly, they have to reshoot that. And that can be a pretty traumatizing thing, I think. Me watching from the green room, that was really painful when a contestant had to say a wrong answer 5 times in a row. That was pretty harrowing.
Yes, being forced to repeat your mistakes is literally a nightmare. Now, you've also had the experience, of course, of all watching the show, or I'm guessing you've all watched the broadcast. Is that right? Yeah, good. Okay. So tell us what that was like. Kerry, what was it like sitting and reliving the experience, watching yourself on screen answering questions?
I don't know why I was so quiet. So I think I was absolutely paranoid about the other team hearing what we were saying. So frustratingly, I can never hear what I'm saying. I know I'm suggesting things, but you can't always see me doing that. It's odd watching it. I was very conscious too that the first. This is going to sound a bit superficial, but the first time we went, which was pre-COVID, then they gave us time to make it look very nice, and I got my hair blow dried and so on, and we had makeup and it was all very. You felt really well presented. And the second time and afterwards, then there was no opportunities for any of that, and no makeup person would come remotely near you. So you were seeing very much the unfinished product.
Well, and studio lights flatter nobody as well. So I feel your pain on this. What about the rest of you? What are there moments that stood out from watching that maybe you didn't pick up on as crucial in the lived experience? Dan, what about you? Were you sitting there second guessing your tactics and your team's tactics?
Well, some of the stuff I found surprising was that I'd actually just forgotten certain answers I'd got right. There was one in the final which I just thought you'd think you'd remember, but it's such a blur when you're sitting there recording. There are a couple of questions about sort of how do you take it on the chin when you get something wrong. You really don't have the time to reflect that much, especially on a bonus. You just go, forget it. Let's answer the next one. So watching back, there are a couple of questions where I think, I didn't remember getting that. That's nice. There are a couple where you sort of shout out the answer at the TV and you expect yourself to say it 6 months ago, and then yourself 6 months ago gets it wrong, and you think, how are you so ignorant? And then you think, Oh no, the reason I know that is because I was asked it on University Challenge, and it's since been burnt into my brain. So there are a few moments like that. But no, I mean, all in all, it was really pleasant watching it back. I thought there was no sort of massive cringe or anything like that.
Actually, on that topic, Neil Watts asked earlier on. He said, "When I attend pub quizzes, I always kick myself for answers that I should have got correct but didn't." How do you cope with that during the quiz itself? James, did you just you seemed calm. I mean, you all seemed calm, but it seemed to just be moving on. But are you sitting there being upset if you get something wrong?
I think the only time that I felt anything like that was in the second round, where we were quite a long way behind, and I think I'd got a couple of questions wrong or something like that I thought I should have got, or whatever, anything like that. I don't think I would go as far as saying I was sulking, but I was a bit sort of more tentative on the buzzer. And then I think I got a couple at the end of the match, and that sort of woke me up a bit more. Which
I remember
nice, but...
there was one particular question, which was it was one of those long strings of things. It was what word is the first word in all of these things, and I remember getting stuck on. This is a national hunt racecourse in Lincolnshire, and I knew I ought to know that, and I knew too that my sister would know I knew that, and I got so stuck on that it came just a fraction too late. But that was a very frustrating one. And another one I remember in the first round, I think I was very conscious that as we were doing the film poster one, and I was mixing up to my annoyance, I managed to mix up two films with Paul Newman in. I knew my brother-in-law, who's in the audience, would definitely be saying, "How could you get that wrong?"
Yeah. Think, and once you imagine the crowd, I think you're in trouble. The other thing about having to watch the series, especially this year, is that you had the advantage over the rest of us in that, of course, you knew what was going to happen in each of them. How several people have asked, but James Walton in particular, how do so many people manage to keep the results of the round so secret for so long? And he adds, by the way, that he hopes you're very proud of yourselves, as you should be. But what's it like not being able? Well, first of all, did any of you tell anyone that you'd got to the final?
I'm going to hope that ITV's legal people aren't watching. I think the answer is yes. I did to lots of people. I broke the NDA. I broke the NDA a bunch. I wasn't supposed to, but I did. So too late now.
It's incredibly difficult to keep it secret from your family, especially in COVID times when you have to disappear for a weekend.
Right, so something's happening because you have to keep going back. Sasha or James or Dan, maybe in that order. If you
I was aware, so because of the way the recordings felt, the third recording block, which was where 4 of our 7 matches were recorded, fell in the middle of term. So I didn't need to tell anyone that at home that I'd left, which I don't think I'm probably unique among the team. I didn't tell anyone. I didn't tell my parents. I didn't tell my brother. I think my parents knew I'd got to the quarterfinals because of train times when I came back after the second round. But my brother didn't know anything after having been in the audience for the first round, so he'd obviously knew the result. So yeah, and they were all very on edge throughout all of them because they had no idea what the result was going to be.
ITV's legal department salutes you.
ITV's legal department should be paying me for that.
I'd just like to clarify that you are permitted to tell your close friends and family to an extent, because obviously the one thing that we weren't allowed for the final, etc., was anyone in the audience, because the audience didn't exist. So right. in their sort of rough guidance was, imagine who would have come to see you in the audience had they been in this match. Those are the sorts of people you can tell. So it's not sort of completely ridiculous. But one of the things I was most keen to do was not let the college community just get a wind of it, because college watching it is presumably a nice thing to do, not knowing what the result is. So yeah, I think the alumni and development officer will tell you they really didn't know what was going to happen. Some institutions are asked by their university, you could just give us a sort of priority hint so you can get the news articles ready, but no, they didn't for more.
And the development office scheduled this event before we knew how well you'd do.
Absolutely.
So let's be clear that they had faith. it's a kind of an aspect of this year that's different, is that there's a sort of college celebrity. Well, you all are now college celebrities, I think, but you'd normally be experiencing that in college with people. How has sort of the public face of this been? People writing news articles about the later stages, Twitter, whatever's happening on college Facebook. Have you looked at any of that, or have you all stayed hidden? Adam, why don't we start with you?
I obsessively read the Twitter, searching my name whenever I was on TV. It's probably a not great psychological thing, but I felt I had to. So yeah, I'm surprised most people.
And you seem okay with that. I mean,
it's kind of fun getting made fun of by a stranger. Actually, like someone that actually doesn't know you. It's like sort of honor there. Like they're spending their time out of their day to send a mean tweet about you specifically. I don't know. It's quite fun.
Kerry, what about you?
Yeah, I was conscious that as we were getting through the later stages, then people I knew would be saying, sometimes would be, I've seen you, hey, you're on University Challenge. And people would email me that I hadn't seen in quite a while. And I was amazed by how many people were watching it who I would never have thought were fans of the program. So I found that really surprising. So the reach of the program is much, much greater than I'd ever expected.
James, I think I certainly saw on Twitter people being impressed with your speed and accuracy. Have you paid any attention?
Yeah, I was reading Twitter as well, just like Adam. I don't think I was quite as compulsively, Googling myself as such. But yeah, it was always interesting to watch Twitter and see which bits of the matches people enjoyed, and I think we were lucky in that our team wasn't didn't bear the brunt of much of the sort of general Twitter
nonsense
garbage that ends up spouting out of the mouths of various people, and
well, look,
not really a lot you can do about that, unfortunately. But
sure.
It didn't go our way.
Yeah, the reaction I saw was very positive to all of you, which is good. But let's talk about the final, because we're getting near the end of our time. So Simon Robert Tissot wants to know about tactics for that. I think he might be planning a campaign here, because he wants to know whether you're nervous or more aggressive or whatever in the final. So one way to answer this, Dan, might be, what was your team talk before the final? How did you rally your troops, and what instructions were they given?
I think people will be surprised to learn that we didn't really talk about tactics that much. I mean, it is basically what James said earlier, you buzz when you think you know the answer, or you think you're going to know the answer. That maybe the only thing, this is certainly true for me, I was more nervous in the final, more because the situation was just bizarre. Paxman was saying, these are the two best teams in the competition, and you sit there thinking, what? This is nonsense. How did we get here? And then they bring the trophy out and put it in the middle and practice having that, and you think, I've watched this program since 2010, and I've seen 11 teams lift the trophy, and you think, I'm sort of that close to doing it. So I was more nervous, and actually that did impact a couple of my interventions, but it wasn't really impacting when I would have done them. It was more impacting the way how well my brain was dragging up the information as well, which is a fact of the game. We also were one of the teams that it's not uncommon now, because of the way the quarterfinals work. You can lose a quarterfinal match, that we'd played and lost to the team we played again in the final, Warwick. So we knew a bit about what it was like to play them, which perhaps if you've lost them already makes you feel a bit more nervous about it could happen again. But to be honest, when you know they're fast on the buzzer, you just have to be as fast on the buzzer, or faster and accurate in doing so. So I don't think we really did any pep talks. The semi-final and the final were recorded on the same day. I think we're not really meant to say that, but we can. And with only a couple of hours in between. But we mainly spent the time going to Pret a Manger and waiting in a queue. I wouldn't say we really did much preparation. I remember sitting there when the final and the music was just about to go on, just saying, buzz boldly. That's all you can do.
Yeah, there's the new college motto. I think that's nice. Kerry, how was the final for you?
It didn't really feel all that different to all the others, actually. sense of apprehension and of excitement and of wanting to be really quick on the buzzer. That it was the same as with the others, but we knew that they were a really good team, so they were quite a daunting team to be against.
Excellent. Now I've got a specific. I've been sitting here for wondering whether I should say this, Adam. It's a question for you for Sarah Atkins, who says that her favourite bittersweet moment was the moment where you switched the order of the names of the first prime minister, and then the opposition borrowed the answer that you'd given them. She says that your old paper 5 supervisor, who was here with her, is feeling your pain, and she says, talk us through that moment.
Well, I think what Dan and Kara were saying earlier, like in the prior weeks leading up to this, we had done like hundreds and hundreds of questions. So you kind of lose track of which one, because you get lots of them wrong, really. So like, I think if you're watching it on TV, you have the sense this is all you've ever seen, and you get it wrong, it's a really big deal. Well, if you spent the last 3 days getting read to Dan on the train, blah, 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 you've gotten it wrong over and over again, it's not really all that deep. So yeah, obviously not great to make a mistake, but it was fun anyway.
Excellent. Good. This is an excellent attitude. And James, finally, what was your final experience like? Were you, maybe because the others haven't said, you're presumably very proud of the result, or are you still feeling the final?
Oh, absolutely. I think all of us were immediately proud of the result after the final. I think you can see on the closing credits when we're clapping Warwick. I mean, we're genuinely happy that they have won. They beat us twice, so clearly they must have done something better than us. There's a bit of obviously disappointment, especially with the sort of questions that arguably we missed that we should have got in the final. But I mean, it's just like it's still just the way it is. And yeah, I don't think going into the final, I think we all had a sort of attitude of like, we've done pretty well so far. We can't get too disappointed if.
Well, on that note, there's a question from Alan Morris, who says, as a member of the 1978 team, thank you all for equaling but not beating our record. And he says, don't worry, after 40 years and lots of therapy, you won't feel too bad about coming second. But Alan, it feels like the new generation may be ahead of you here. They all seem pretty relaxed. He says, we were on 8 times, and the appearance money we earned was used to buy the college's first 2 punts. Did you get appearance money for the college? And if so, what was it used for? I like that everyone. Dan is nodding, and his
this
team
is scandalous. We don't
I'm not nodding as in I got paid and the rest of the team didn't, or I was asked to allocate the funds out. That is not what's happened, and I've kept it. I was nodding at the punts bit. So when I was meant to be revising for my first year exams, I remember sitting in the college library and going through old college magazines of no relevance to a first year medic, and finding just in a 1978 article 80 or whatever it was that. A Maudlin team has won something like £50 from University Challenge, getting to the final, and we've bought a college punt with this, and thinking, oh, that's really nice. But no, we got expenses. They were scrutinised severely and got nothing else from it. But we're due to get our nameplates soon, so hopefully that's our payment.
Yeah, memorabilia is important. Right, final quiz round then. So be prepared to shout Maudlin in your names. The final starter for 10. Why did the spelling of Maudlin gradually shift to include an E on the end? Dan.
Supposedly to differentiate from Oxford's College for the postal system.
That is supposedly the correct answer. So very good. So the final 3 starters, and we'll do these on the buzzer for anyone, is a round on the Masters and Fellows of the college, historical mostly. Which famous 20th century poet's Nobel Prize medal is kept at Maudlin? He was an honorary fellow of the college.
Maudlin Blarney? Is it
Edwin?
Seamus Heaney?
No, although I like the guess. Anyone else?
Maudlin told Matthias Eliot.
Correct answer. Yes,
great
5 points
answer.
to you. Who was Master of Maudlin between 1781 and 1797? The Master was an active theologian, a major benefactor to the college, and a figure of national importance as a pioneer and leader of the campaign to abolish the British slave trade.
Yeah, do know this. The blanking thing is happening.
I'm going to have to press you for an answer.
Maudlin Payne, Thomas Gisborne.
No, good guess, but not correct. It was Peter Peckard. Is the
Peckard,
answer.
yeah, that's it.
Peckard. So the final question. Honorary Fellow and former Master, Professor Sir John Gurdon, won the Nobel Prize for Physiology or Medicine in 2012 for research into what type of cell?
Maudlin Lawson.
Yes.
Stem cells.
Correct answer. 5 points. I think we need not trouble the development office to give us the scores. I think we've got a rough idea of who's leading. But appropriate enough after that round, I would like to. Oh, I'll give you the scores. So James and Sasha are joint second, and Daniel is winner with 50 points, which is impressive. Well done on reading college magazines. But appropriate enough after that round, I think we are joined by the master. Sir Christopher Greenwood, who wishes to speak to the team. So hopefully, yes, the development team can add him. And Master, over to you. Hopefully.
Yes, thank you. The technology was defeating me there for a moment. Look, there are just two things I want to say in conclusion. The first is I am immensely proud of all of you for the achievement that you've notched up. And particularly having just heard my near contemporary Alan Morris's comment for equaling the performance of my own generation. Without, I may say, my having been part of that team, I wasn't even considered for it. But it has been a tremendous achievement and very well done. And the other thing is to thank you all for some really great entertainment. In time, I shall forgive the old friend who rang me 5 minutes before the end of the semi-final. But it's going to take a decade at the very least. And I did keep the screen on, even if I had to turn the sound off. I also, with great restraint at a meeting earlier this week, when somebody there announced rather proudly that he'd been at Balliol, I managed to bite my tongue and not ask him if he'd enjoyed the semi-finals of University Challenge. But thank you all very much and very, very well done. And Chris, thank you for a most entertaining evening today.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you for saying what I think lots of us, and I can see from the comments that lots of people are thanking the team for what's been a wonderful entertainment tonight and over the course of the series. So with that, I will thank you all on behalf of the college for attending. I want to mention a few upcoming alumni events which may be of interest. There are a mixed bunch. On the 21st of April, there is a talk on the cancers which survived transmissible cancers in natural populations. On the 28th of April, you can hear from Jane Hughes about Mary Astell, the first English feminist, and the recent discovery of papers in the college library. And on the 5th of May, Professor James Raven is talking about sea monsters and fake news. All three of those will provide fodder that is guaranteed to come up in future University Challenge questions. So it's practically revision for future encounters. Leaves me only to say, Edwin, Sasha, Adam, Kerry, James, and Dan, thank you all so much, and we will see you all again soon. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you very much. Thanks.
Very much for having us.
Thank you.